lens cap. You know how I always am like, do you have the lens cap?
Yes, all the time. I remember one time you like, we couldn't find it during lunchtime, and you pressured me into looking for it while I was having lunch.
Oh, God forbid.
God forbid.
God forbid.
We lose a $6 lens cap.
Why is lunch such a big deal to you? Honestly, why?
I think it's literally because it's the only time of the day that I can take a break from like the day.
Oh my God.
For myself.
Well, I never forget the time we were like really busy. Can I tell this story?
Yeah. I don't remember, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you'll remember. We were very busy and we had a lot to do. And you were like pacing around eating your food in the office. And I was like, what are you doing? And you were like, it's a walking lunch. What do you think I'm doing? I'm like, working lunch. That was cute. I always thought that was
I don't know
cute.
why you found that cute. I just was like, I think we had a lot of work to do or something, and I just wanted to eat real quick because I was starving.
It was so cute, a walking lunch.
And I was just pacing back and
Why?
forth.
Like, what does that benefit? Why did you need to walk? What is?
I think it makes more sense if you're on set because you're walking and still doing stuff
But
while
you
you're
weren't
eating.
doing anything.
I know.
You were literally walking around eating. Anyways.
It's like moving.
Yeah.
Trying to move. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to The Creative Producer. This is episode 3. We're back, baby. And
Yeah.
That's it.
Episode 3, man. It's pretty cool. A lot of people were like, oh, good luck figuring out next episode. Then I made another.
I don't know why you've gotten like those comments of like whoever like don't are you not worried you're gonna run out of content and stuff? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much to talk about.
I mean, it's valid. I think that like it's the people, most of the people in my circle that I talk to on a regular create content.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of them are content managers because those are the people that like I grow relationships with. The content manager and I work hand to hand. So I get it because it's like the content managers are the ones who are always coming up with the ideas. So they were just, I think it's like not a mean way of looking at content. I think it's just like it's hard to come up with content.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I don't see it as a mean thing. I'm just like, I don't know. There's just so much stuff to talk about just in the industry as a whole. And like just also we could have 3 or 4 episodes of just breaking down shoots we've done and like how to pull them out. So like, I don't know. There's still like a lot of episodes that we can do. So I'm not too worried.
For sure. So we've had a pretty like interesting couple weeks since the last episode. I guess we released the last episode like late July, early August. I think the first week of August. Mm-hmm. And then no, wait, that can't be right.
It's been
pull it up.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the way you like remind you, remember when we had a podcast? That's how he gets us to film the next episode. Like
it's been we had a we have a specific like we try to shoot them at the first week of the month and then have them out the second week.
Oh, so we're like 3 weeks behind.
So we were a little behind. So I was like, just how I asked things. Hey, remember we had a podcast?
When was the last episode released?
Oh, sorry. Gotta look it up. Okay, so the last episode was August 2nd.
Okay, so we're about like a month and a half behind. Yeah. So, well,
God,
it's crazy because it's already like the month is almost done.
The year is almost done.
So yeah, we've had a lot going on. I mean, the last episode, right before that, we had that weird blur of like constant back-to-back production. We filmed a testimonial for one of our agency clients hired us to film a testimonial of a dog owner's reaction and experience with a pet food.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because like we both are really like, we like animals and like, you're more of a dog person. Yeah. You have dogs. I mean, I still like love animals and love the relationship and bond.
He's definitely a cat person.
I am a cat person.
He's nice towards dogs. I literally have video of like him interacting with my cat and just like, yeah. And then my dog slowly comes up to say hi and he just kind of like shrugs him away and keeps petting my cat. And Dan said he wasn't a dog person.
No, but it was really cool because we're really passionate about animals and we love them. So, and the brand was cool because like I personally like my cat uses. I have an older cat. Yeah. She uses the product. It's the brand is Fresh Pet. And so it's like a refrigerated food-based pet food, and it was really cool because the dog had some health issues, and the food changed its daily attitude and mindset, and the family noticed it. So I had a really good time on that shoot, but it was very stressful because our YouTube account had some projects in South Florida, which was like Boca Raton. I drove my wife and son to the airport, and they flew to Fort Lauderdale, and then you and I met up at like 7 a.m. from here at the office, drove to South Carolina where we shot the testimonial, and then we tore down and like repacked the gear in a restaurant.
I remember.
Very interesting.
We took over like a whole section of the restaurant with our Pelican cases and camera gear and like food, and it was just funny. But it was like kind of like so like, the restaurant was kind of L-shaped, so we like took like the corner like that was kind of hidden away from the restaurant, so like it wasn't. I don't think it was distracting people that much, but I'm sure they noticed that we took that whole area.
I mean, it was definitely interesting for sure, and it was stressful. I'm not gonna lie. Like I think. It's hard when you like, so that testimonial shoot had more of like a cinematic like production style. It was more of our like full kit rig, and everything was kind of like controlled. And then the YouTube account was more really just like on the go, running gun, handheld stuff, one light, lavalier. Yeah. So I had to like strip some of the stuff like. We didn't need wireless. We didn't need the Teradek for that shoot. Yeah. And the Teradek was all rigged on the Red. So it was a little stressful. And unfortunately, like in situations like that, like I knew something was going to happen. I knew I was going to leave something. And I ended up leaving like 3 things in your car. And I knew it. Thankfully, they weren't like detrimental. But like... I left a filter ring that specifically I used for a lens, and I was really annoyed about that because I couldn't use my ND in Florida, which sucked. I ended up getting one Amazon. I was able to, so I got to Florida like a day before the shoot, so I ended up getting that filter ring sent to the place we were staying, and I got it before the shoot, but. Yeah, that was frustrating. But yeah, I mean, you just gear prep is really, it's underestimated, I think. And I think that people don't realize like when someone's like, hey, it's just a half day shoot or it's just an hour shoot, like you're still gonna have to prep your gear.
You still gotta prep the same.
Yeah, and I mean like the deconstruction, reconstruction, like no matter how simple your setup, if you're flying, you really have to be strategic. Like if we were driving, it was be a very different situation with the prep. Like there really wouldn't have had to been much stress at all. But since I was getting on a plane, I had to like everything had to fit in the right places. So I mean, I would say I spend at least an hour and a half outside of time spent charging power, packing for a trip. And that's just like, I mean, it can get easier, it can get harder depending on the project, but I mean, an hour and a half needs to be factored in. And so yeah, when a client is like, it's going to take a half day or something going to take a couple hours, you got to still realize that like, while I appreciate them saying that, there's still a lot of other things that like make me not interested in. That's a reason why the price is less, because you know, if someone wants to hire you to produce some content, I don't know. To me, it's like you get a day. It's like a day rate, and that's the day, and I give you 8 to 10 hours, and I'm not really gonna be like, oh, like it's fine. I'll give you half off because you say you only need me for 3 hours. But what if you only need me for 3 hours, but the prep, commute, and all that takes the rest of the 8 to 10. So I'm just like giving myself half off. So yeah, just it was an interesting thing, but we got it all done. It turned out really good. Really excited about that. What do you think about that effect we did with the still photos?
Oh yeah, I liked it. I mean, it was just something to like spruce up the edit a little bit. We just did like, you know, a little bit of stop motion with the pictures because we did video and pictures of the dogs just running around and interacting, and like it just, yeah, I think it just gave a nice pop to the edit to separate a little bit.
Yeah, so it was a really, I'm sure you guys have seen it happen before, but like it's essentially where you take the still photos and then you just cut them up, and then they look like almost like a little bit more choppy of a GIF style.
Yeah.
And I think it added a lot.
It cut away from like just the normal B-roll of dogs playing to just make it separate a little bit from just an average video.
Yeah. So I think that was a really cool way. Like we thought of that and we proposed it to the client as a way to like not create such a standard like interview B-roll style shoot. And honestly, it helped a lot too with our cutaways because we had a 15 and a 30-second deliverable for the CTV campaign, and I feel like the shots of the dog, like you added the shutter sound, and then we were able to like have him go from the outside of the pool, jumping, and then in the pool and swimming. It turned a 6-second sequence to a 3-second sequence.
Yeah.
And with photos, the human eye seeing a frame for a little bit longer than, instead of seeing one frame in 24 versus one out of 24 frames per second, we saw one frame per second. The audience identified what was going on faster. So we were able to really keep our style and concept really the same for the 15 as we did the 30. And we just altered what sound bites needed to be heard on the interview. So yeah, that was a really cool. I was really into that. I think that was cool how you did that.
Yeah. And we also had that little ending outro shot of like the dogs eating off a bowl. And then we like use our phones to like put a clear bowl over the phone, and then the actual I think and then we put the food over the clear bowl, and then the dogs ate from there, and it was like a fun little POV to end it on.
Yeah, that was a great idea too. I think we had wanted to try to use like the Pocket 4Ks to do it, but the shoot was such like a tight, like there was very little time to plan.
Yeah.
We needed some sort of like tank, like a fish tank, really.
We basically needed to like get like maybe like either 2 boxes or like maybe Apple boxes, and then put like some sort of glass on top of it, and then put a bowl there, and so it has some height. We just didn't have time or really the budget to like get all that set up. But so the phone worked just great.
Yeah, and I think that's an example too of like why you shouldn't knock the phone, because the phone definitely has like the phone has saved me many times. Like there's been times like I'll get hated on this, but like the like red cameras typically need to calibrate sensors when temperature changes, and there's been times where like I'll have a client, we're shooting like a lifestyle piece, and they're like, "Oh, get me doing these donuts on my new truck," and I'm like, "Oh wow!" And we were just inside, and we're driving home from a restaurant, and they want me to go do it, and it's 104 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Well, the second I start filming, my red lights up and has red.
Yeah.
Like T and E's are red, so the camera's like hot. And I don't want to risk overheating, potentially losing my media. So I just pulled out my phone, and while it's not amazing quality and amazing dynamic range, if I focus on making sure my highlights aren't clipped, I'm outside, so there's plenty of light. I mean, and if I want to shoot in ProRes, I can. That's a really quick way to get a shot.
Yeah.
And it turns out fine. And sometimes I think if you start a scene with an iPhone, they're gonna see it. But if you just throw it in the middle, it just kind of.
I don't know how they gotta do something else. I don't know when Apple comes out with a new iPhone how they do those ads that are shot on iPhone, and they actually look like good. I'm like, oh, this looks pretty good. And then when I shoot on the iPhone, I'm like, it looks good, but it doesn't look that good. Like the main thing is the colors, like the color changing, and especially when editing in Premiere, or like just the noise is kind of weird. But I mean, they're getting better. I definitely want to get the 15 mainly for the Type-C, because now we can shoot in ProRes and transfer it in a decent amount of time using the Type-C port.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like any shoot that's like this was filmed on this camera, like I don't know, I kind of like take that with a grain of salt, because it's like, okay, so if the objective is to shoot on this camera, let's say like the FX30, FX3, I have a $1,500 camera, but then I have a $10,000 to $20,000 camera package. So that means I've figured out for the phone at least, I figured out a way to rig a PL mounted lens. I've got it follow focus. I've got the lighting controlled. You really like it. It shouldn't make you feel like, oh, I should buy this camera because they filmed this movie on it. I really should just be like a reminder of like the fact that the camera really is one of the least noticeable attributes of the production. So if you have good lighting, good lenses, good set design, good art direction, good actors, good sound design, and you have a very basic camera, it's like, it's okay. But if you have all of that other stuff, or it's bad, and then you have a great camera and you have everything else sucks, your video is still gonna look like shit.
Yeah.
I remember there was this guy when I got out of school, man, he bought like a Red Raven. I think it was like Red Raven or Red Scarlet, whatever the more affordable red was at the time. I think it was like 12 grand. And I remember like I was like, damn, this guy is gonna like cut me out of everything. Like, you know, I have a 7D. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna make this work. And then I see his first video, and it was like the shittiest video ever. And he shot it on the Raven or the camera. And he didn't use NDs, and he didn't and everything was just terrible. And I was just like, wow, I guess the camera really doesn't like make your work that much better.
You gotta be good at it, because I think before even we got the Komodo, like before I even met you, like I used to edit for other people, and literally one of the last things I edited was a feature film, or I think I did an assistant editor, a feature film that. I edited a trailer for it that was shot in 2 days using 2 red cameras, and it looked like shit. Like, I think the last scene was a fight scene in an abandoned building with no lighting. It was no lighting. It was just an abandoned building with the camera, and it was the noisiest thing ever. And then after I sent him the trailer, he goes like, "Is there a way to like brighten this up and take out the noise?" And I'm like, "You shot it. I can't do that. I don't know what you want from me."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I came up with this idea when I was in like 10th grade. I told my film teacher in school, and I was like, what if there is a time where you film everything in in a studio, and the camera is like, it's all connected to some software, and you do a quick thing where all these lights come on. So every level of exposure is interpreted to the computer, and then you can literally film it like medium exposed, and then you can literally light everything shot by shot in post. Like, how wild would that be?
I feel that would be wild. I don't know. That was some focus. I think that's gotta be the future of camera, because I think when I was in college, like I saw like a camera that like you shot it and like everything was in focus, and then you can pick where do you want the focus to be. I don't remember what happened with that camera. Yeah, you can do that with the iPhone now with the new iPhone.
Because it's fake depth of field. It's not true cinema. It's like it's a digital.
Exactly, and then it just does their computer magic, and then you can pick wherever you want it.
But the 360 was an example when you sent me the Insta360, because it showed
a 360
that's
camera.
He sent the Insta360 over to me and was like, hey, this is dope. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's cool. But he's like, no, watch the ad. And it literally you can film one thing and it exports it in 3 aspect ratios. It films it in 3 perspectives.
Oh yeah.
So like for us, like we shoot so much content, and the clients are always like, hey, like we need a 16 by 9, 9 by 16, 1 by 1. So when we do 9 by 16, sometimes we have to reshoot a shot. Yeah. Like for instance, the New Year, New Us, or Same Us ad we did, we had to do the bench press shot twice, because there's just no way to get that shot framed.
That adds time. So with that 360, I've been seeing a lot of people use it, and like it also can do that effect of having the probe lens, like going through stuff. Like it looks so cool. And I'm like,
I think it'd be a cool piece of kit for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think the camera definitely doesn't like. Going back to that idea though. So you would tell the DP, "Are you lighting raw?" So it's like the DP is like gets everything going, and like you just ask if it's lit in raw, so you can like adjust all this shit. Then he gets his cut for his reel, and he's like, "This is like nothing that you paid me to do. I did none of these things. Where did this green light come from?" No, but that would be. I could see something like that happening though. And it would be connected to Unreal Engine somehow.
Yeah, somehow. Because I mean, you can do Unreal Engine. The idea is how to get a camera that can like handle that. Which I'm sure that's where they're gonna go. At least that's one of the cameras is gonna go to like be able to do that. That would be insane.
But yeah, so we've had a good amount of stuff going on. We just finished a really cool shoot. Last week we had worked. You and I co-directed. I produced, lead editor, and head of visual effects. And I think it was a really cool experience too, because we used Unreal Engine for storyboards.
Yeah.
And I mean, hats off to you, because like I've wanted to do. I've never personally, with our projects, we've never done storyboards together. I honestly really have a hard time when I see an Excel shot list.
Yeah.
I'm like, kind of think it's okay. And then a lot of times you and I like will think the same thing when we read it, or we'll read the same thing, and then you'll be like, oh no, this is this shot. And I'm like, I thought it was like this, and it was like way different.
Yeah, sometimes we have like we think we are on the same page, but we have different ideas about it, which is not a bad thing. It's just we're different people. So like definitely having a storyboard, something more visual, especially when you and I are more visual people, it helps a lot. I can handle drawing to an extent, but definitely using like a 3D software like Unreal Engine was way quicker to like get that storyboard going. I think I did it in a day, and it was a little rough, but like we just had to like get it done. And I think it helped a lot just us being have a unified vision. So I don't have to wait for you, or you don't have to wait for me to like explain to the crew the shot if one of us is doing something else, because we know what's happening.
Yeah.
And so we can just keep going while the other one's working on something else. So it definitely helps speed up the process as well.
Yeah, and I think that was really cool. So the workflow we did, which I just to kind of give you guys like an idea. So what we did is like when you co-direct, obviously like it needs to be one vision. So typically like with Raf and I, we have different skills and strengths on set when we direct, and we focus on different things. Yeah. And that's why our projects really work well like when we co-direct, because we don't really conflict, because normally the things that he's focusing on, I'm not even noticing, and then vice versa. And then, like you said, in that situation on our shoot, we had a really like aggressive morning. So there was times where I had to go like handle a logistic or pre-light with the team down in another location, so you could just handle the shot.
Yeah.
And it worked out really well. But what we did first is we did write out the shots together. We went through it on Excel, and then we use Excel. I'm sure there's other places you can write shot lists, but we've always just done like a sheet, and then we align on the sheet, and then that's when you went to town with you knew the frames, you knew the shots, you knew the focal lengths, and then you just kind of designed. And then really, I don't think I think there was nothing I was not aligned with when I saw the first draft of the storyboard. The client had some minor feedback in regards to the lighting, but it really wasn't a lighting. It was more of a composition, not a mood board.
Yeah, it was like more so you can just see the people in the environment. It wasn't really lit to like how it was going to be in the final, because obviously that would be the DP in the end. Yeah,
but overall it worked out really well. We ended up renting some lenses that I personally wanted to use for a while.
Yeah.
The Cook glass it just has a signature look. It's milky, it's light, it's just like got a look. I don't really know how. I guess the best I say milky, creamy. It just has like almost like desaturated.
Yeah, it has a very soft, like slightly diffuse look that like looks really good.
Yeah,
like
so
this kind of vibe.
Yeah, and obviously like that look is specific for the project. So we a lot of the fitness content we do, or high energy sports, it doesn't necessarily want that look. A lot of fitness clients typically lean more towards wanting like sharper, higher frame rate, higher shutter content. So these lenses obviously didn't have that place. Plus, they require a team. I mean, operating them, we had an AC and then the DP. So it just requires a little bit more work. And also insurance to own them, the insurance policy on them. It was a $50,000. Together, they were $50,000. So, that's another thing to account for. It's like if you see a really nice set of lenses that you want to rent, I mean, please don't use like single term insurance. Like buy your own insurance policy, because I mean, ShareGrid just absolutely, like if you use ShareGrid like we did on this, the insurance for like their like per project insurance rate is just absurd, to where like it just doesn't even make sense. Just like buy your own insurance for renting gear. I mean, it's hard to say like what the best insurance company is.
Can it be like any insurance, like Progressive, State Farm, or like are there specific insurance companies that have specifically for like that kind of equipment?
Well, I don't know if Progressive. I know that some larger firms have like a production equipment side, but for most of the ones that I've found, they've been like their own.
Okay.
But the process really is like you'll reach out to these equipment insurance companies, and they're really just brokers.
Yeah.
So a broker just connects with multiple agencies and then gets you the best price. The problem is a lot of times you can't just go direct to the agent. You have to go to a broker, and then the broker takes a commission, and they get their cut, and then you get your insurance through this other company, but you deal with all the customer service and logistics through the broker. And, we've used one company for a while now. They're fine. But the question is like, you can't really, if someone's like, how's your insurance been? And all you've done for 3 years is paid them every year. And you just say, oh, it's been a great experience. Like, yeah, no shit. Like you've literally just been sending them $2,000 a year and they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
The real question is looking into reviews of when you had gear stolen, damaged. That's the real feedback. And for me, like I have a hard time with like if I have something going on and the customer service is just like either non-existent or very poor, and the communication and the response time is slow, like that doesn't really work for me. So I look at reviews and I hate to say it, but I look at like the bad experiences on forums, Reddit, Facebook groups. And those are the experiences that I look at and see, this company sounds like they have good prices, but they have shitty customer service. Or this company has 5%, seems to be 5-10% over market value, but the customer service is exceptional. Maybe it's worth it. So those are the ways to look at insurance, because if the company is just taking your check every year and they're literally not doing anything, then they really should be great because that's just free money for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we rented the gear and, we kind of had an interesting outlook on this project because we had a tight budget. So we were like, all right, so do we want to budget into hire a colorist, which would have been ideal because we've been wanting to experience that, or do we want to try to do this in-camera filtration, select the optics that really give a look that we're wanting based on our mood board? Do we really want to try to stylize this in camera? And I think we did a really good job. Justin, our cinematographer, crushed it. In post, when we did cut this in Resolve. We did.
Oh, we did cut this in Resolve. Still don't like Resolve. I know it's probably a me thing for most part, but there's just little things that like Resolve just does or doesn't have that like I'm not used to. I can't say I don't like. I'm just not used to. I don't want to get too into it because that's gonna be a whole episode.
Yeah.
To get into it, but yeah, we cut it in Resolve because like I think it was not an easy edit, but there was not a ton of VFX or graphics. It was mostly just the visuals and narrative visuals, and the main thing that like we wanted to focus on aside from the editing is the color. So obviously it would be easier to just leave it all in Resolve. I did take a couple clips, I exported them out, and then did some effects to like fix some stuff in After Effects, and then brought it back in. But besides that, it was pretty much in Resolve.
Yeah, and I think that like for us, like these aren't really like, I guess this isn't like the norm of our style of shoot. So it was very visual. It was very much like a music video, like editing the concept really of a music video where it's all visual based, very minimal graphics, and which is fine. It's just, that's just not the type of work we normally find ourselves doing a little bit more cumbersome post. But still, like even so, like we had, I think the session, the first day we selected the shots remotely together. After the shoot, we selected the takes that we aligned on. And then you did a rough power grade on them just to get like sort of where we needed to be. And then we did another session remote on Monday and just like, I hadn't touched it yet. So I wasn't like loving it, but you did the job that's the hardest, which is like make a blank canvas fill a blank canvas, which is so hard to do. And then, I had to like sit with it, absorb it. It just wasn't working. It's a lot of footage. And then we just kind of like picked at it. It didn't take long, like an hour and a half.
No, I think once we like both started like collaborating on it, we got through it quicker.
Yeah. So then we came in Tuesday and then we were together, and this is a 30-second spot, guys. So it was at like 35 seconds. And then like, I would say by like 4, we were at picture lock.
Yeah, I would say. The funniest thing was like, I was editing the 30-second. I was editing the 30-second, and I kind of like forgot and wasn't looking at the timeline, and I was still trying to trim it, and I got it to the point. I was like, oh, this flows well. I got it under 30. And then I look at the time, and I'm like, wait, it says it's 1 minute.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, when you sent me that comment, you're like, yeah, it's going to be a great 1 minute cut. I'm like, yeah, you definitely edited a minute cut. But that's fine. Yeah. Like, that's not bad. And I think that was another way we kind of approached this cut, too, is like, I was like, don't focus on the time to a degree.
Yeah.
Like if we could like meet at like 48 seconds, 50 versus a minute, like don't worry about it. Like let's just get it out.
Yeah.
And then we can like chip away and like plan to take certain things out and slip and slide. 'Cause it really comes down to like slipping and sliding and like very minute trimming to make the pacing and the flow work. for 30 seconds because it was a pretty eventful 30-second cut. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these great projects have been happening, but with that being said, we did want to kind of go into a new service that we are offering to the filmmakers that are watching this video or listening to this podcast. I personally think that post-production goes a long way, and I know a lot of us sit here and do our own post, and we're great, and that's where we make our money, and we're totally aligned with that. But there is a certain point where doing it yourself doesn't always make the most sense, and that's where hiring or contracting an expert, someone who's mastered the craft, really comes in handy. Why don't you tell us a little bit of what we're doing?
Man, he's really hyping me up.
Yeah.
I think a big thing that sets us apart is that we can do everything in one. We're a one-stop shop for editing, VFX, motion graphics. We have experience in all of that, and I think we're very confident in our skills. We have experience with After Effects, Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, and we have experience with Blender and Unreal Engine. We're trying to like also expand to that horizon of doing a bit more virtual production. With right now we're doing it with green screen, and we use Blender to create assets that we put in Unreal Engine. So
what would be the workflow of a client coming to us with a concept or a project and wanting to get a price?
Yeah. You said where?
What would be the Jesus Christ.
This is why he's the salesperson, the producer. I'm just in my cave making it all happen for you behind.
Hey guys, for the next 10 minutes, free graphics. Click the link below.
So we usually start with a call and a video call or a phone call and go over the project and what your needs are for it. And then from there, we'll assess like how much work is this going to take? How much time is it going to take? Do you just need motion graphics? Do you need like a narrative video edited with motion graphics or visual effects? And then we create an estimation of an hourly rate of how long this might take. And from there, we start working on it. We give you the first rough cut, and then you give us the revisions, and we go back and forth until we get to the final steps, and then we reanalyze like, hey, so these are the final steps that we got to take to either finish a project, or if you want to keep going, we can keep going. It would just maybe we'll need some overages or not.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful too. Like for me, like when I get I like to have a flat rate. So when I get told like this project's going to cost this amount, I know what it is. So I like the fact that like when you are working with other producers and you're working to outsource the service, you kind of give them that heads up. I'm like, hey, this estimation, we're here and we got about like 10 hours left. And I think that what you're wanting to do is going to require this.
I feel we were also very transparent in that we don't want to feel like, we don't want you to feel like you're being taken advantage of or not being fair with a rate. Like, hey, this is how much we think it's gonna cost. We're gonna give you into flat rate, so you have that in mind for a budget. And we're not off, or you don't know how much it's gonna cost in the end. And then when we're getting to the final few hours, if we're getting to the final few hours, we'll be like, hey, so we have a few hours left. We can finish it, and we'll probably cut down on this, or we'll probably do something a little different that we have planned, so we can keep it within budget.
And I think that like that's really important to understand too. It's like a lot of producers, a lot of filmmakers, they have that hesitation to reach out to outsource because they just don't want to lose money, and they don't truly understand. They're trying to make as much money as possible for the gig, which is fine, but sometimes you have to realize like when you do the numbers and you add things up, it's like, what is it really gonna take you to do this versus outsourcing it? Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a level of confidence and comfort you need to have when choosing a company to outsource with. But I think the fact that we know production and we do this on a regular basis ourselves allows us to kind of be a little bit more adaptable to understanding the situation. Okay, the budget's $5K. So obviously if the budget's $5K and we have, we're clearly not going to come in and quote you for post. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That would suck. Like I would be like, that would piss me off as a producer. So I understand, like we look at the budget, we look at the scope, and we're very transparent. So yeah, I think that's a really big feature that I wanted to bring up that we are offering, that I wanted you to share, because it's one of the things that I think helps us stand out and has continued to help us stand out. And I'm really proud and excited to start offering these services.
Yeah, and that's a great I think one of the great reasons is that Dan and I work so well is that I tend to focus on the pose and the VFX and like putting that together, and where I lack, which is like producing, putting everything together as a whole, that's where Dan comes in, and that's where his services are like honestly like great to balance off of what I can't do. So that's why Dan is so great at his job, because he is able to put everything together for any sort of project.
Yeah, and I mean I appreciate that, and I think that it's like we've kind of, you and I have reached that point in our relationship with work where we understand like it's like the jobs suck at different times, but they unify, they work together, and they really are what makes the job really come together. So our past project we just produced was a great example of like everything kind of coming together. Great cinematographer, great production designer, great producing, great direction, great editing. We had a great product. So with that being said, we are starting to offer freelance producing services. I think one of the biggest things filmmakers do sometimes neglect in understanding is the value of hiring a producer. And I think when we look at it, we think producer, that's the person who gets the money. Yes, in a film situation, that is correct. But also a producer has a lot of other logistical challenges that they focus on that allow the director or cinematographer to really focus more on the creative. So some of the responsibilities of a producer on set really revolve around crewing, show running, and proper budgeting to maintain margins. So the process would be simple. We'd work together at the start, be transparent about what the budget is or what the desired margin is you're trying to make. We'd factor in the producer freelance rate, and then we'd start chipping away at numbers to make sure you're able to make those margins. My ultimate job when I'm producing for you is to making the most profit possible while running a clean show. And that's really important. And I think we've seen countless times that many of the crew that we hire in Atlanta have dealt with kind of shady sketch experiences on set. And that really revolves around bad producing. And, I think over the years we've developed a good groove with our skills. And we're now super proud to offer this freelance producing.
We've had a good amount of recent projects, but we've also had some really bad ones. And, this is where we get into the actual topic of the day. Gigs from hell. There's been a lot of projects. I think mainly the gigs from hell, at least for me, have been before I met Dan and we worked together. Because I used to be like just a freelance editor, so I was just like Craigslist, Facebook, wherever I could like find a job to just get some money. So I've done some weird and really bad gigs that I did not charge well for, and just spend way too much time on. So we can get into it. I think we each pick one, so so we don't like talk forever, because I definitely have a few. But do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So my main one, just want to say, nobody really from my family watches this except my mother-in-law. So Janet, for the next 10, 15 minutes, just mute the podcast. Don't worry about it. So so basically I got hired. I think it was through Craigslist. I got hired or what I originally thought was, okay, so you're gonna watch. We are starting a new streaming service, and we have a bunch of movies that we just need the F-bombs and the nudity taken out. And I'm like, okay, cool. I imagine it's probably some raunchy comedies that like have maybe one F-bomb and then like a sex scene that like you don't really see much, but I'll cut those. Great. So we have the first 50 movies. Here you go. Just go through them. Cut them. I'm cool. I go back home. I start watching them, and then I realize these are not movies I've ever seen. These are softcore adult films, but like B movies, B movie production. So I went through 50 of them. I couldn't even I think it was like for $450. I spent like probably weeks. Even at double speed, it was like hours and hours. Like, to give you an example, one of them, there were movies that were like maybe an hour and a half, and at the end of the edit, they were like 45 minutes, because it was just all nude sex scenes. You could see everything but the insertion. That's how bad it was.
Did you actually see like was it like, so it was like, is it like showing the like nudity?
Yeah, so you would see the nudity, you would just not see it like it going in and out.
So you would see like
like motion and like nudity and like
okay.
like
so like the way they have like sex scenes and like the Matrix sex scenes.
Yeah, it was like HBO late night HBO Max.
Well, that
Oh,
was
sorry, HBO.
but like that was still like
Yeah, it was
but
softcore.
it's like produced well.
It was softcore,
Okay.
which in softcore you don't really like see like close-ups of the
Okay. Oh, I
insertion.
see,
That's what I
see.
mean.
Okay.
You see everything else, but obviously I was like, I didn't have money. I was like, I need the money. I'm just gonna get through these really quick.
So what did you do? You just cut out the insertions or the
You just cut out. That's the thing. I never got full explanation, so I imagine I just cut out any shot, any cut that would show like either any naked body part. Like,
But wasn't it a porn movie?
some of them were. Some of them were just random. So some of them were like literally called. There was one that I still have saved because I love telling the story. The movie was called The Bushwhacker. It was in the Old West. It was set in the desert, and literally what I remember it was this one guy that would hide behind a bush, and while another rando couple was like having sex in the desert, and he would like whack it. That's what the name Bushwhacker.
When you say whack it, you mean like whack-a-mole, like the game?
Yeah, definitely. So we don't get demonetized. But that's an example of the movie, and it was terrible. It was others. It was just it was terrible. I remember I could not get through all of them. I had to like beg my roommates, hey, can you guys just like please just take 2 or 3 movies, just cut out the F-bombs and nudity because I can't keep watching. I'm like a movie 35 in like a span of like maybe it had to be like less than a month.
So they paid you $450 for the edits.
For all 50 movies, $450.
Wow.
And then I literally was I was
all 50 movies.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus.
I thought it was gonna be fun. I thought it was gonna be like
no.
a raunchy like comedy for like.
I mean, you got this on
it's something-
Craigslist, right?
I'm pretty sure it was Craigslist.
Did you? Okay, so did you get paid fine?
Yeah, I got paid the $450.
They
just
never
fine.
had any issue paying you.
No, I think he paid. We met at the same restaurant that we went before, and then I gave him the hard drive. He paid me.
Oh.
And then he literally goes, "Okay, we have 450 more that you can go through." And I went, "Yeah, this is not for me. I'm gonna go."
Yeah.
And then I just got up and walked away.
Well, at least he paid you.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But my mental state was not good.
Well, that's a lot of hours. I'm sure it wasn't easy.
It was bad. Like again, there was movies that I would just cut like literally 50% of.
And you would have to
50
export
60.
a movie again.
I would have to export each movie.
How were they, like
edit.
MOV files?
I think
like,
it was just MP4, like just.
Okay,
in
so
an
you
MP4.
ripped them all. You didn't have to rip them.
I didn't have to rip them. No,
Okay.
it was on the hard drive. But yeah, it was.
Weird.
So it was a nudity and like just going through the video and just having to listen for F-bombs. Like that was the thing. I had to like censor the F-bombs. Like, and there were movies, they were like B movies. They had no ratings, so it was just like 20, 30 F-bombs in a movie that I had to like stop, cut, beep, go next one.
Dude. Yeah, it's hard. But I mean, hey, you did what you had to do. Were you still working at the electronics store too then? Or was this like when you were full freelance?
I think this is when I was full freelancer.
Okay.
Because that's the only reason I had the time to do it.
Right.
Like,
that was at least 40 hours.
yeah. Oh,
Probably
I mean,
more.
Probably more. Because like, I sped through them, a lot of them, but also like I'm stopping like every
It's
few
hard.
minutes
I
to
didn't-
like do the F-bomb.
The curse words. It's
Yeah.
wait, all only Fs or any?
Only Fs. Like
Okay.
he only wanted F-bombs, and then I had to like
See if only
decide
AI.
what nudity was in the sense of like, or like do I need to like still like show that there was a sex scene that happened for the story, or just cut out the entire scene and like just act like it never happened. Like it was just weird. It just the worst B movies you've ever seen, and a lot of them were like either horror or like they were just like mostly sex scene. Like
Jeez.
there was one that just took place in a strip club.
Where did this
So
guy?
it was just all nudity.
How do you think this guy's making his income? So you think he's like a middleman and distributing these to somewhere else?
Probably. I mean, that would make sense. I don't know where he got them though. Like, where do you like? They were insane movies that I've never seen or heard before, and he just wanted to start a streaming service.
There's a
with
lot
them.
of movies that like never get seen by general public that were made. Like they're in film festivals, they never get purchased, they never get distributed, and they get some like shitty distribution deal. And they made the film for $100,000, and then somebody's like, "I'll give you $15,000 for perpetual rights," and they're
Yeah.
like, "Whatever I need to get something back, I'll take it."
Yeah.
So most likely they probably just get rights to these cheap movies. He sounds more like he's like a liaison of like either these movies are like public domain, which they could be.
Yeah, they probably were.
And then he's able to like market them to some client, potentially international, that like it's like maybe it's a independent TV network or something, or a streaming network, and then he's able to like give them content and he's filtered them out and he gets a fee.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I didn't stay long enough after those 50
I
movies.
call him and ask him.
I'm sure if I go through I don't delete my emails. I'm sure if I go through my emails, I can find something of it.
I mean, it's interesting for sure. But you know, I always gave you props though, because like you at least you were grinding and you were working hard, and you know, it's not fun to do things like that. But sometimes when like you're in the real world and you need money and you need experience, like I feel like you're doing what you wanted to do, which you did want to tap into working as a post-production lead, so you were editing, and B, you know, you were getting an experience as working with a client. So yeah, it sucked, but you know, I think it like still it shows like your work ethic, and like at least you were like you went through and didn't just like quit.
Yeah, I mean, I needed the money, and I was like, yeah, I'm too deep in. I gotta finish this.
Well, I remember you used to do the the wedding videos like that too, the flat rates.
Oh yeah, I used to. I used to edit for this wedding company. The main thing was outsourcing to different videographers and then also different editors, and then no matter how long or short the the video was, it was $100, for example.
So
for me.
brutal, man.
2-minute trailer, $100. 2-hour wedding video, $100. And then you had like different deadlines to reach and all that, and basically I just could not keep up because I was start working with you, so I was trying to like balance different things. And it got to a point that they just like let me go without telling me that they let me go. I think it was because it was all through like Trello, like the website Trello, to like organize everything, task manager. And it literally got a notification, because you get notifications. I got a notification them talking to a different editor saying like, hey, so we're going to move this project to you because the other editor that started is no longer with us. That was me. And I'm like, wait, what? So I just start emailing like, hey, what's happening? What do you mean I'm not with you anymore? I didn't quit. I didn't say anything. And then they were just like, yeah, we have to let you go because you're not like outputting the videos fast enough. And I'm like, there's like 6 videos I gotta do for $100 each.
Yeah.
And like I think one of them I had to ask a friend of mine to like help me out because it ended up being a 2-hour full wedding video. And I was like, dude, it's $100 for the video. I'll give you $50 if you help me finish it.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was so bad.
I mean, and I
terrible.
think that, and that sucks, but like that company, like that, they obviously like have some workflow, and I'm sure it's great for them, but they obviously have no issue with, well, first off, like my mindset is like with weddings in general, like there's a interesting retention rate in regards to like how you value each client, and like, you know, that service, like while it may get you like, if you do someone's wedding, they may remember you and they do something else, sure. But like they're most likely not going to get married again. So that job is probably not going to be repeated. So that means to me that client, obviously they have some workflow where they're just like this generic, like this is the flat rate. It's affordable. We have thousands of examples to show you. And then they obviously have no care in the world of their retention rate of their editors and team. It's just like, whatever it takes to get the $1,500 job done, because think about it, if they hired, let's say they spend $500, which it sounds like they did, and then they pocket $1,000. Like they're doing pretty good if they have a volume game. So they just those businesses, it's not about the retention rate of the team, it's about just pumping out crap.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, I know I'm gonna censor this, but you films.
Are they still around?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Dude, I've taken on so many random jobs.
Wait, no way.
What? They're still around?
September 13, 2022. Films announces bankruptcy, leaving couples without wedding videographers.
Oh, wow.
He went bankrupt. Karma, bitch. That's what you get.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, that sucks.
Dude, it was so stressful.
How do you go bankrupt if you charge so little, pay your team so cheap?
I don't know. And they had like pretty substantial packages. They were like in the thousands.
So many people that do creative visual work and they just suck at business.
They suck so bad.
It's like, it's the mentality of here's a $5,000 check. That means I have $5,000 to spend. It's like that's how these people think. It's like they have no concept of like reserves and cash flow and just like it's terrible. And I see it all the time. I mean, I'm not trying to like dig into them. It sucks that they didn't work out, but you know, I think there's a point where it's like that rate is low and that treatment is pretty bad. And, you know, hey, you can, I'm sure it lasts for a second, but,
That's wild.
It is wild that they're bankrupt. It's sad.
That is a nice resolution.
Anyways, no, so yeah, so I've had a lot of gigs. I guess like for me, really, like I started producing my own content, so I didn't do a ton of freelance, but when I had like more music video focused jobs, my income really wasn't high, especially because music videos didn't pay well. So the average budget of my videos were like $2,000 to $5,000, and then I was really pushing to make them a certain way. So like I would maybe pocket like $1,500, $2,000. So I was living on a pretty low income. So if I could bring in some extra freelance work, I would. But really, like, I mean, the gigs I had were like strange and weird for sure, but nothing like jaw dropping until we met. And then I was even more ambitious with what I could go bid on for the company. And I took on this like this health-based post-production project. And it was one of the only jobs I've ever actually gotten applying for a job on Indeed, which I don't know if you've heard of Indeed. It's like a website for recruitment. Essentially, they post job leads and then you apply. So just like LinkedIn jobs, like there's tons of applicants of everything. So anyways, it was a post job. It was a flat rate fee. So you got on a call with a person. They would discuss these educational health module training videos, and then they would basically say what it is, show you an example, and they would say, what's the price? And it was a very interesting tactic that I learned a lot about flat rate fees for, especially with post. They get you to lowball because you don't know. Like, you don't know how long it's going to take. You're just like, I don't know. I would assume $6,000 or $7,000. And then like, you can't take into account like the pandemic, or you don't take into account the countless hours of revisions and things like that. You just kind of expect it's like, this is how long it's going to take me to make this, not how long it's going to take me to make this, plus all of your revisions. So I incredibly underbid the job. We picked it up. We signed the deal. I got a deposit in February. And then a month later, the pandemic hit. February, March, April. So 2 months later, the pandemic hit. So they went on a little bit of a pause. And then we were trying to together we were trying to navigate through this like client that was so particular, so like, just like anal about everything and just never ending corrections. And mind you, like, while I was not the one physically editing, you were. I was paying you hourly to edit. So my job was to fight as much as I could to get the client to be happy with something, because these hours were just like, it was taking forever.
And I mean, you can even say like, you can even partly say that like, oh, maybe you were not getting them what they wanted. But we did so many like live editing sessions to where they will like step by step, move it over here. It's a bit. I'm moving like a few increments over here, like everything. We did so many live, and they still were not satisfied. Like they still found out a day after, like, oh, actually, I want to go back to this, or actually, let's do something completely different. And like, no matter like what, they were never satisfied.
It was brutal, and it was miserable, and it just took forever. And the client was definitely, we didn't get along. They didn't get along with me because I have a hard time, like, I don't like feeling like I was taking advantage of. And this is another thing, like we talked about, like underbidding, and like when you're bidding for a job, there is an animosity you immediately start to have, and this resentment you start to have if you were underpaid and the job starts to get annoying. So with everyone's like, hey, here's your video, great, I love it, here's your check. I bid a little less, but it was such an easy experience. Like I don't really think about it. But if that client is asking for constant revisions, and then you start to like really like regret the decision. I mean, there were so many times where I just wanted to like walk away.
I was
from
gonna
the job.
say, yeah, there were a few moments where we were like, should we just quit?
You wanted to quit. You were fine. I mean, you had no attachment to the project, which I don't blame you. It was just like, for me, it was like, if I quit, I'll literally make no money.
Yeah.
And I was getting to the point because she was asking for so many revisions that I was like, this is like, I think the project was slated to start in April, and then we would be done by the end of Q2. So May, June.
Yeah.
So January, February, March, April, May, June. So yeah, June was the end of Q2. And we actually didn't wrap the project until December 22nd.
It was just at the end of the
right
year.
Before you were leaving for your holiday in Puerto Rico. So like we literally finished like that. It took that long.
Yeah.
And they
it was 2021.
Was it? Yeah, the year.
2020 was the last year I was getting married.
But it was the year of the pandemic. It all happened during COVID.
Was it 2020 then?
Whenever the pandemic was.
Yeah, I guess 2020.
It was the year of the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
Because that was when it all. Because I remember that's because it got on pause because I was doing those trips where I would have to drive places.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like one time you got on a call with the client and I was in Miami and I drove there because I couldn't fly to Miami or something. So yeah, it was a brutal job. And yeah, dude, that job was awful. And then like I had so much animosity, but I learned a lot about like when clients are like aggressively wanting a flat rate. It's with post-production. It's really tough to do that. There's just so many variables. So we learned quickly after that. It's like, hey, we'll do hourly post and we'll give you an estimation of hourly. And then that's essentially your budget. So while that client was really frustrating, it was a great learning lesson.
And there was times that like they wanted something like a revision done pretty quickly, and then they wouldn't respond for like months, times or weeks. I remember like that also delayed it a lot, and we're just waiting like, hey, just waiting on the revision so we can finish this up. Nothing.
Yeah, so hard. And then like, so it was the year of 2020. So like we went from like, I had accounts that were like doing like certain amounts of money drop like 75% because of just there's the pandemic and it was uncertain. So what's the first thing you're going to cut? It's marketing spend, etc. So really stressful time. And, I still had sales. I wanted to meet sales goals. I wanted to hit a certain sales goal, even though we were in the pandemic. And so I wanted that money and I had accounted for that money to come into our account. And so at the end, we were still not done. In November, I finally was like, I mean, these requests, like she just popped out of nowhere. And we had actually another project we were working on. And she just like sent a request for a revision and wanted it done in like 24 hours. Hadn't heard from her like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I said, we'll let you know we can get you to that. Yeah. She's like, well, if you're threatening to not deliver this on time, then we're going to have a serious problem. And I'm like, look, the ball's not in your court anymore. Yeah. I have nothing to lose anymore. From what it's worth to me, it's already a loss in my book. So that was kind of fun because she got a little upset and it sounds mean, but it was kind of fun because
I mean, if somebody drags you on for a year for like a small flat rate, at some point you just you gotta get something out of it.
And she had I had no collateral until that moment where they obviously needed to get paid and they needed to hit their bonuses. Because like if we charge $7,500, I'm assuming that company billed their client at least $50. So there's a lot of work involved on their end too. But still, like they were making an astronomically large amount of profit. So I was just like, look, if you can't pay me the rest of this money before the end of the year, then there's no reason why I need to aggressively make this urgently for you. And I ended up getting the final deposit faster because of that. I didn't threaten to not do it. They were no longer a priority.
Yeah.
And when they weren't a priority and they had their deadlines and their budgets to meet, they started to rethink the way they thought or treated us. And finally we got it done. But yeah, that was my gig from hell. Brutal.
God.
We still joke about that.
There's been a couple like that, but I think that's definitely been the worst. Like that lasted the longest and got paid the least. Yeah, that was a bad one. But I'll finish it off with this. I got a quick one. So when I first started, I just did like a lot of event stuff, like not weddings, but like I remember I did a birthday once, a sweet 16 with my roommate. Like the funniest, it wasn't that bad. It was just a little chaotic. It was obviously a Sweet 16, and then she got for her birthday she got a new like Dodge Challenger.
Wow.
Just a normal Sweet 16. They rented out space and all that. They were crazy. She had an uncle. They were like there was a stage. They were dancing. She had an uncle started like making money rain like actual stacks, and I'm like, what is happening?
Have you seen that? There's a show on MTV about that.
Oh, I'm
Where
not
kids,
surprised.
like-
What if I was punked and I was actually in that show? I'm just kidding.
Maybe, yeah.
But like the peak was like when she got her gift. They obviously got everybody was like, "Whoa, you got a new car!" And she gets in the car and like hits a curve immediately. Like just and I got it on camera. I was just like, "Hey, she got a car." And she's like floors it and just hits a curve, and everybody starts running like, "Oh my god, oh my god." She's fine, but I was like, I don't ever want to do
you
this
have that
again.
footage? No.
Probably not.
That'd be great.
I was just like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, that's fun. It's funny you say that because I actually forgot. I filmed. I told you about the $800 music video birthday party I did, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So this rich, very wealthy woman in South Florida hired me off Production Hub as a music video director to direct her daughter's like 5th birthday party.
Yeah.
And the whole theme was like a Madonna Vogue style, like recreate the Vogue music video.
For an 8-year-old.
But she's like, yeah, under 10. And I basically had to like shot for shot just redo the video, but with children. And it was a little weird, but like, I mean, they were really nice kids and like they were really rich. So like everything was like really nice. We were in this like really nice place, like a very fancy house, and like there's a lot of nice food. And I mean, I just came in and did it. And like, honestly, it was a pretty good gig. Like she paid me a check on site and then was like very nice about like, this will not be written off as this will not be claimed or this is a cash gift. Like she was very nice about that. So I was like, great. Like, but yeah, I had to like edit a kid's video and,
Do you have the footage for that?
I have the video. And it was just like, it wasn't the worst. Like, I mean, it was a long drive. I remember the girl had a stepbrother and he was like my age or maybe a little younger. And he was like, so you like film like girls' birthdays? And I was like, right now I'm filming whatever I can to pay my rent.
That's all we can ask, honestly.
Yeah. It was funny though. I mean, it wasn't that wasn't like, that was a good experience. Like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You gotta roll with the punches. And like, just to kind of recap too, guys, like we're all going to have projects that aren't great. And I think one thing to do from each one of these scenarios we just shared is like, you can look at all these examples and you can just say that sucked, or you can actually like take a second, review and analyze like why it was a bad experience, because then professionally as you grow and get better, you're going to be able to improve and know what to avoid.
And that was it for episode 3, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a review. Come on, give us 5 stars and tell your friends.